Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to Sasquatch Watch Radio on the Blog Talk Radio Network. All right, welcome everyone. Sorry about the intro. Since they switched our studio back to what they consider lo-fi instead of hi-fi, because of all the problems that they've been having over the past several weeks. Wasn't able to upload our original intro, so apologize for that. But anyway, we'll get by. Today is September 1st, 2015, and we're back on the air, and so far so good. So we'll see how it goes and hope for the best. Just as a reminder, the show is brought to you by Audible.com. And being a listener to this radio show, you can go to audibletrial.com/Sasquatch Watch Radio, and you can get yourself a free audiobook as well as a 30-day trial of audible.com. If anybody's never heard of audible.com, it's a place where you can go and you can download audiobooks to listen to, and we recommend that you give them a try. You won't be disappointed. How are you doing tonight, Creature Seeker?
Hey, Billy. Doing great. Thanks. Hey, what's this up? I hear about people impersonating police officers up in your neck of the woods.
That seems to be happening nationwide, actually. There's all kinds of crap like that going on. But, yeah, the one that happened recently was right here in the county I live in, where a guy, some person got in behind an actual cop and turned on some blue lights. And apparently pulled him over, and I guess they showed each other who had the real badge or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it was like some young kid. He tried to pull over this car, and he didn't realize the person operating that vehicle was an off-duty police officer.
That's right.
So yeah, I think they played chicken with their badges, and I guess the fake police officer lost.
Yeah, I think he did.
He was arrested, yeah.
That's good. You know, this whole thing with all the violence against cops, and yeah, I tell you, it's getting pretty scary, really, when you think about it.
It is. It's a shame, Billy, because, you know, the men and women in uniform out there, they're, you know, trying to do a job, and just because, you know, there might be one or two bad apples doesn't mean, you know, that they're all like that. So I hope that people come to their senses.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So we, you know, so wow. How long it's been since we've been on the air, Billy? It's been about, what, 3 weeks?
Yeah. I think, because we had, you know, trouble last week and never get anything to work. And, of course, I found out that the what they consider the quote-unquote hi-fi system went down. And you know, they were making claims that they were at 96% reliability, and I told them, I said, well, it depends on who you ask. But I thought we were probably more in the 30% range. But
yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that 96% reliability figure.
No. So anyway, they're claiming that they're trying to perfect it, so they took everybody off of the hi-fi system until they get out the kinks, and I think they got quite a few kinks, even though they won't admit to that, but quite a few kinks to work out. So anyway, we're back to the lo-fi system, so the sound quality may be a little bit worse. Who knows, maybe it's even just as good. Might not be any different for all I know.
But, you know, Billy, the programming will be the same awful programming that people have come to expect. So
exactly. So it's the same disappointing show that you're used to hearing. So that quality never changes.
We do have fun, though. You can't say we don't have fun.
I know. We do our best. Hey, you know what? I wanted to mention something that came across my email, just as kind of an advertisement to help a friend out. Found out that Stan Gordon just published a new book just a few days ago, August 26th, called Astonishing Encounters, Pennsylvania's Unknown Creatures. And he's calling that his Casebook 3. And so looks like a pretty good book. He's got a lot of, what he did was he opened up some of his old research files and started sharing some of the cases that he's worked on over the years in Pennsylvania, everything from Bigfoot to gigantic birds, black panthers, and other strange creatures. So it might be worth checking out, especially if you're in and around Pennsylvania. I'm sure it'll be a nice, interesting book. So it's called Astonishing Encounters, Pennsylvania's Unknown Creatures. And you can get a copy on Amazon.com, or you can go to BarnesandNoble.com, or you can check out Stan's website at stangordon.info.
Billy, how much is he getting for that book?
I'm not sure because I didn't go to Amazon to look. So I'm not really sure.
Well, yeah, I suppose you could get it from Amazon, or you could just hold out for a couple weeks and get it on eBay used for like 99 cents with free shipping. So
poor Stan. Why you always got to pick on Stan?
Right, because Stan always picks on me. You have no idea, Billy. You have no idea. The guy is like, he's merciless. So I get those zingers in when I can.
I understand. Well,
but
at least he doesn't. At least he's not trying to get you probed or anything.
I'm sure. Well, we have a great show tonight, Billy, and this is my pleasure to introduce our guest, who, is he's been to Creature Weekend, and we've never really had a chance to talk because with the conferences, we just run around like a chicken with your head cut off. But I was able to have a few words with them when I attended the Beaver Creek Bigfoot Days, and I was able to listen to his presentation. Really, really interesting stuff that this person's been involved with. And I have to say, I was surprised. I really didn't know he had all this going on. So I thought it'd be really cool to have him on the show so we could talk about, some of the projects he's been working on. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dan Baker to the show. Dan, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Hey, welcome to the show. And, we started to get into a conversation about some of the things that you've been involved with your research. Now, you were originally with the Sasquatch project, right?
Yeah, actually, I was the co-founder of the Sasquatch project, and broke away just a little bit over a year ago and started my own organization. And
your organization is called A.P.E, and I believe that's an acronym.
Yeah, it's American Primate Exploration, and we go by A.P.E. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. And so, can you tell us a little bit about? Well, first of all, how did you get into this?
Well, it was a very, very long time ago when I was a little boy. I got interested really when the very first time I ever saw the Patterson-Gimlin film. I was 12 years old, and I saw that film, and I was really intrigued by it. And so growing up, I had the opportunity to play a lot out in the woods, and my best friend and I used to hang out in the woods there, and we'd come across a lot of weird things. And one time we came across this dome-shaped structure out there in the woods, and it was really cool because we could both crawl inside this thing, and heck, we thought we had a ready-made fort, So we were out there and we were playing around in this thing for about 2 weeks, and we went out one day and it was completely gone. I mean, there was no trace of it. It was completely gone, and we didn't know what the heck happened to it. And it wasn't until a very long time, after that, when I was an adult and started really doing, online research and things of that nature, that I discovered that, the dome-shaped structure could have very well have been, a structure that a Sasquatch made. And so, things, just grew from there. I primarily started off doing research online, and then I started getting into some of the groups and stuff, and started doing field research, and so after having a sighting and stuff, and my wife she's like a Squatch magnet or something. I don't know. She's seen 4 of them, and I've seen 1. But we started the group, and we've expanded. Now we have research teams in 10 different states and in 3 different countries. We have a division in Canada, 1 in the UK, and 1 in Australia, and it's just it's really going great.
Now, do you bill yourself as a kill or no kill group?
Oh, we're absolutely no kill whatsoever. I don't believe in that. I know there's a lot of people out there that will, say that, the only way to prove the existence of a Sasquatch is to, shoot one and bring it in and lay it on a slab. But, I believe there's other ways, to distinguish, a Sasquatch from any other creature out there. And, who knows, maybe someday we'll get very lucky and, somebody will come across one that's deceased and be able to get, some good samples from it, if not, the whole body. But I don't believe in killing at all.
So you do believe that the only way we're going to move forward in this field is if we have a specimen, whether it's killed or found dead, we need an actual specimen, right?
Well, yeah, I believe that it's going to take something like that, but I don't entertain the thought, and I don't condone people going out with guns, going crazy in the woods trying to shoot one. But hopefully, if there's any possibility of coming across one, if you can't bring a partial specimen back or the whole specimen back, at least bring part of it, maybe some body part or something. But I just I don't believe that going out and with an Uzi or an AK-47 or something like that and try to blow them away is the way to do it.
So you'd go with something smaller, like a 45 or something.
When we go into the woods, well, I have one of my researchers goes out with a 44 Magnum. He goes out with a 44 Magnum. I use a 357 Magnum, but it's only in case we come across a predator. In the very, very, very rare event that we should be attacked by say a cougar or a bear or something like that. That's the only reason we carry.
Billy, did you have any questions for Dan?
Yeah, Dan. You've been in this for quite a while, actually, and what I'm just curious. Did any movies really intrigue you at all when you got into this?
The first movie that ever really caught my eye was the Legend of Boggy Creek. I thought that was really a cool movie, and as a matter of fact, I still have it and watch it every once in a while. But that was I thought that was really something, and I was still a young man when that came out, and actually kind of freaked me out when I first watched that movie, but it still intrigued me and kept my interest up.
Yeah, I think that movie had an effect on a lot of people. It's definitely one of the movies that I first remember seeing too, and I saw it in a drive-in theater, so I was really young when I saw it. But yeah, I think that movie's fun to watch even today.
Yeah, it is. I have one of the original cuts of that movie, from way back when, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, there's another movie out, and I haven't. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to see it, but there's another movie out right now called Something in the Woods, and they screened that at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference just this last spring, and everybody that saw it is just saying it's a spectacular movie. So hopefully, when it when it comes out on DVD, I'll be able to take a look at that.
Dan, when you saw The Legend of Boggy Creek, did you believe that there were creatures like that near where you lived, or did you think that that they were only living down in the southern part of the United States? I mean,
yeah. Well, what I thought. Well, Patterson and Gimlin saw one in California, and these guys are seeing it down south, and there aren't any around here. I never would have dreamt that we'd have anything like that around here. But boy, was I wrong. There's an awful lot of activity around here, and I think we've just scratched the surface of it.
What changed your mind?
What changed my mind?
That you said you thought they were out in the Pacific Northwest, or
see, when I started delving into the different Bigfoot research organizations, I found out that there's a lot of activity around here, and I was like, holy crap! I never thought that was possible, but more and more as time has gone on, and I've been able to go out into the field and be with a lot of different people and have different experiences. That pretty much changed my mind, and now we have research areas around here where there's just an unbelievable amount of activity. In fact, our lead researcher, Ray Gardner, went out with several people last Saturday evening, and they had some activity in an area that they call, I think it's Location 1 that it's called. And and that's all here in eastern Ohio. I know that Ohio is one of the hot spots when it comes to Bigfoot activity. But when I first started into this, I figured, well, there aren't any around here. But yeah, I was definitely wrong.
When was your first sighting, Dan?
My sighting was on June 2nd, I believe it was, in 2013 in Carroll County, Ohio. It was about 12:30 at night, and I happened to see it through my night vision as I was sitting in base camp with my wife and the property owner's wife. Part of the team was up walking a ridge line, and I just got back with the property owner on an ATV, and he was, they radioed down to try and get him to come back up on the ridge line and bring the team leader back, and so he didn't want to do it because they had so much activity on that property. This guy was freaked out. And earlier in the day, he and I had gone down into a swamp, and we came back around, and when we crossed over this ridge line on the north side of it, and we were coming across this trail, there was a fresh tree that was broken and thrown across the trail, and we had to go around that tree. Well, later on in the evening, I wanted to go back into the swamp because on a previous expedition back there, some of the researchers had something growl at them back there. And so I wanted to go back there and take my H2 audio recorder and see if I could get some audio back there. So I talked him into going, and we got up to the top of the ridge line, and he found a very small broken sapling, and he radioed to the team that was walking the ridge line there, and he said, we just came across this broken sapling and all this and that, and he's freaking out and stuff, and the team leader says, well, it was about this big around, it was next to the trail, and he said, yeah, and he said, well, I did that. He said, I did that so that I could mark a spot because I put a recorder there so I, could find it when I come back. So that calmed him down a little bit, and we started going down over the other side of the ridge line. And we got just about down to the swamp, and he stopped the ATV, and he turned around to me, and he said, Dan, I hope you don't mind, he said, but I really don't want to go back into that swamp. He said, I just don't want to go back there. So I was, naturally I was disappointed because I wanted to see if I could get some kind of audio back there. But I said, well, okay. So we took the same trail back to the backside of that ridge line that we took earlier in the day, and then when we came up across the backside of that ridge line and we got to where that tree was thrown across the trail, there was another tree broken and thrown across this one. So there were two fresh trees with still green leaves on them laying across this trail. And, actually before we got there, we came across this real nasty putrid smell, and I told him, I said, I don't think we're alone. Well, that was the wrong thing to say, because it really freaked him out, and he hit the gas on that ATV, and I was like a bronc rider on the back of it trying to get out of them woods. So we finally got out of there and we got back to base camp, and like I said earlier, they radioed down for him to come up on the ridge line because the team leader wanted to come back. And excuse me, he was gone about 5 minutes. And after about 5 minutes, my wife and the property owner's wife and myself were sitting there at the campfire at the base camp, and there was a pavilion there in the base camp. And we were just sitting there talking, and all at once we could hear like what sounded like bipedal footsteps walking just inside the tree line about maybe 35 yards away from us. And so I looked at the ladies and I said, "Did you hear that?" And they both said yes. And so I grabbed my night vision and I walked up to the corner of the pavilion there, and I started panning from right to left because that's the direction that I heard, we heard, I should say, the footsteps. And when I got to about my 10 o'clock position, there that big son of a gun was, and all I could say when I saw it was, "Oh my!" And when I said that, the two ladies jumped up and they started running over to me, and my wife had a flashlight and she handed it to the property owner's wife, and she was flashing it up there, and she could see the shadows of this thing moving back and forth. And what it was doing was it was standing in between a large tree and a sapling, and it would just swing from side to side. And it would do that for, a few seconds, and then it would stop, and then it would start again, and then it would stop. Well, this whole time, my wife is on the radio trying to contact the rest of the team and tell them, we've got a sighting down here right in base camp. And as luck would have it, they were on the back side of the ridge line, and they didn't have radio contact. So, this went on for a little while, and I turned my head away for a few seconds, and when I looked back, it seemed like this creature was gone. It just seemed to disappear. And so, things kind of calmed down a little bit, and about that time, my wife was able to get a hold of the guys there at the that were on the ridge line, and he was coming back on the ATV, and he got back to the base camp and started telling him everything that happened. So he grabbed his night vision and he walked over. The property owner's wife took him over there and showed him exactly where this thing was, and he was there for just a couple minutes, and he said, "Hey Dan," he said, "grab your night vision and come here." So I grabbed my night vision and I went back over there, and he said, I think there's something still there down behind, a bush or something back there. And he said, but it's like crouched down. So I grabbed my night vision and I looked up there, and sure enough, that son of a gun, I don't know whether it left and came back or whether it just crouched down, but it was there, crouched down basically in the same spot, but, it has still been there. And so he devised a plan to go up into the woods and try to get a better look at this thing. In the meantime, the rest of the team was coming back to the base camp. And so this thing was just, it would move a little bit, but not a whole lot. It'd sway from side to side while it was crouched down. And so, the rest of the guys got back to the base camp, and, they devised this plan. They started walking up towards where this thing was, and from where I was standing, all I could see was tree branches and stuff moving, going up over the ridge line, up over the hillside as soon as they started heading for the woods, and that was the end of it.
Dan, so what sort of night vision do you have? Is it the Starlight scope or is it thermographic?
I'm sorry? It's a Starlight.
It's a Starlight. All right, so you when you looked through your night vision, I imagine you didn't see a lot of detail. You just saw kind of a silhouette.
I really didn't see a lot of detail. I couldn't tell you whether it was male or female. I could basically see from that distance, basically just the outline that was just a little bit of a different shade of color than the surroundings.
So what is it about what you saw that makes you think that wasn't just another person?
Well,
or whatever.
that thing was enormous. It was enormous, and we figured that it was at least the next day based on, the calculations of where it was standing, by the tree and the sapling, that it was at least 7.5 feet tall. And it had shoulders on it. I mean, the shoulders on this thing had to be 3.5, 4 feet wide. It was humongous. And I don't know of any, people that are that large. It was huge, just huge. So, I don't know of anybody that would be that size standing there, especially when guys in the base camp have guns and they're, they don't, because they don't know if guys are going to, shoot at them or not, which of course we wouldn't. But, I just don't think anyone would take that kind of a chance.
So you're absolutely convinced that what you saw was not human?
That was not human. I'm absolutely positively convinced. And as a matter of fact, if you go on the Genasqua Project, the Paul Hayes's YouTube channel, you can catch like the last 4.5 minutes of that sighting because it's on audio, and it's called Base Camp Sighting, I believe. And so you can catch that the last 4.5 minutes of that audio, and I'm not the only one that saw it that night, and so I'm not the only one that was convinced of what we saw.
Interesting. Billy,
hey,
do you have any questions for Dan?
Yeah. No, but we've got a caller on hold. So I'm going to bring them in here. Caller from the 330 area code, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Ray. Actually, Dan, senior field researcher.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Hello?
Oh, it's Ray Gardner.
Oh, Ray.
Yes. Hello.
You're great, Ray. Your connection is not that great. Is there any way that you could maybe call us back?
Okay. Sure. Give me just a minute.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Bye.
He was breaking up really badly, Billy.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly make it out either. It looks like he was calling in on a regular phone, so that's a little unusual.
That is unusual. Huh. So, Dan, can you just tell us who Ray Gardner is? I understand.
Ray Gardner is our senior field researcher, here in Ohio, and he's a former tracker and trapper for the ODNR. He's got a lot of experience in the woods with not only wildlife but different types of vegetation and things of that nature. When we go out in the field, he's like a bloodhound. Because he can distinguish all kinds of different tracks, and he's just an excellent field researcher, and we're just really lucky to have him.
Yeah, we hopefully he can come back on the show with a better connection.
Yeah, we just actually, in fact, we have another person that we just brought on the team who's a former tracker and a trapper for the ODNR also. So, between those two guys, hopefully we can come up with some really good evidence. Ray has already found a nice track that we were able to cast at a place that we call Research Area R306 in Carroll County, Ohio, and that's he's really good at what he does. So hopefully he can get back on here because he's got a lot of knowledge. Dan,
so you have a bunch of trackers on your team. Has that panned out for you? Have you ever actually found, a Sasquatch track at your trail that you were able to follow and
the most footprints that we've ever been able to find have been at that R306 because part of it is marshland. And most of the tracks that we found were down close to some of the marshy lakes, right on the shoreline. And the last ones that we found right next to the shoreline were about 15 inches long, but unfortunately we couldn't track them because they were just full of water right on the very edge of the shoreline. So we weren't able to cast those. But yeah, those guys, they do a good job of, hunting these things down. No, I haven't had the opportunity to take the newest guy out. His name is Nate Medic, and he's I'm sure he's going to be a good person too. But we also have a man that was a former United States Army Ranger, and his name is Jeremy Wall, and Jeremy is just excellent in the field. And he's every bit as good at tracking as Ray is, and he's got a lot of field experience as well. So, these guys are a great asset to us in the field. And so, we also have a lot of other researchers all over the country that, are doing a really good job.
All right, guys, let's try this again. Let's try it again real quick. Can you hear us? Test your phone with us now, Ray.
Hello, can you hear me?
All right, much good.
Is that much better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, hi. How y'all doing?
Good.
Pretty good, Ray. Good. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Thank
Ray.
you very much. Hey, what's up, Dan?
Hanging out waiting on you.
Huh? Well, yeah, I know. I don't know what happened with the other connection. But I could hear you guys just fine, so. Yeah, I don't know where Dan left off, so.
Well, Ray, maybe you could. So you were just telling us a little bit about your background. How did you get into Bigfoot research?
Actually, the research all started with me was kind of like obviously I saw the Patterson-Gimlin films and stuff when I was growing up, but I actually got more into it, like truthfully into the whole research thing only about 2.5 years ago. I had a complete and accidental sighting with two friends of mine, which I think Dan there just talked about Jeremy Walls, and he was one of them who was with me. And I've hunted most of my life and done a lot of trapping for the ODNR, and which is the Department of Natural Resources. I was a nuisance animal trapper. And, I had been out and I've never really seen anything, and I was actually even beginning to think that it was just a nice idea, but they really weren't around, And me and my two friends stopped on the way out of an area we had been hundreds of times, and a friend of mine named Tim said, hey, why don't we pull into this field area here and let's see if we can see where the deer are coming in and out and get an idea of what way they're moving for hunting season, and just kind of setting ideas in our head. So we were pulling into this area, and there was tall weeds about, I don't know, maybe 4.5 foot tall, maybe 5 foot tall. And we got out, and it was just starting to get a little bit dark, so I was just shining a mag light trying to see over the top of the weeds, and we had all seen at the same time what looked like a set of green eyes. And I thought, that's one, a doe or, whatnot coming through the woods there. And so we sat and watched it, and then it dawned on me that the weeds were that tall. And I thought, I told my friend Tim, who's about 6'4", and I said, does that look weird to you? I was like, that's over top of that weed line. The weeds are like 5 foot. And he goes, yeah, it is kind of weird. So then I thought, well, maybe it was someone's horse who had got out, because there are horses in the area. And we watched it go from the left to the right and above the weed line, then it went into the woods. And I thought, well, that was really bizarre. And at one point when it looked right at us, the eyes were a neon green, and they looked to be about 10 inches across, like from eye to eye. And I just remember thinking how bizarre that was. And that's actually what made me think, well, maybe it was a horse, like turning angles real quick or something. And I thought, well, I don't know. I'm not really a horse guy in particular. And so, we were going to leave, and Jeremy Walls, the gentleman that Dan mentioned, we were heading out. We were going to go get coffee. It had just started doing this light, misty rain. He said, you know what, man, I want to go back and see just how big that really was. So we had gone back, and the next thing I know, I asked Jeremy, I say, you wanna walk across and I'll go with you? He goes, no, just stay with the truck, turn on because Tim had great big KC lights on the front of this F-150 of his. He said, pull in this way, turn on the lights, and I'll just walk about where we saw it and whatnot, and we'll see how big it was, and then if I find anything, you guys can come over. So he starts walking across, and he's, it was a big field. It was about 80 yards across, 90 yards across, and he wasn't quite halfway, and all of a sudden, here comes those eyes again. And they come right along the tree line, and they're looking right at us. And I told him, I said, Jeremy, and he looks back at us, and he's getting blinded every time he turns to look at the lights of the truck, because it's starting to get dark. And I said, it's more to your right. So he's like, oh, he's thinking maybe whatever. So he starts walking to the right. And I said, Jeremy, I said, you know what, man? I was like, start going forward because you're just about even where the eyes were again. And as he started walking forward, the eyes looked right at him, and then they stood straight up. And it dwarfed him. And Jeremy's 6 foot, and this thing easily had at least a 2 foot, height above him. And it was looking down at him, and me and Tim could see it, but Jeremy was having a hard time seeing it because he kept losing his night vision every time he looked at the truck. Well, at this point, he was only about 30 yards from it, and I hollered, Jeremy, freeze. And he knows I don't get panicked very easily, and he knows once he figured something was up when I actually screamed the way I did. And so he's like, what? I said, dude, freeze. I said, start coming back. And because the first I hadn't, I know it was we don't really have bears in the area, but there have been sightings off and on of bears, and a height thing wasn't quite registering at that very moment. And so all we could see was the silhouette, light silhouette of a thing under the tree because it was standing under an overhang of a tree, and we could see the eyes reflecting in the light. So I thought, man, maybe this is a bear that started to get up into a tree or something. And so I was calling him back. Well, as he started coming back, once he got another 15 yards backwards from it, he was walking backwards because he knew, if he turned and ran, most predators see that as a sign of your prey. So he's walking backwards through this field and through the weeds and everything. And once he got close to it, got that 15 yards farther away, this thing had turned. And as it turned, me and Tim both could see the entire back of this thing, and it was an arm. You could flat out tell it was an arm. It was not a bear. And it was standing on 2 legs. You could see the buttocks and down the corner of the right leg, I guess it would have been as it went into the woods, because it looked at the last time it looked directly at him, it turned to the left, and it just turned and went into the woods and went down this hill and made a crazy racket you wouldn't. I mean, I couldn't believe how loud it was, and it's not like a mountain or anything, but it's a hard hill to walk up because it's a steep angle. And we've done this many a times, and this thing just basically, it sounded like you took about 5 or 6 steps and was down the hill and into the little ravine there. And it's really hard to do that. And he got back, and Tim was trying to figure out what it was, and he kept asking me. He's like, Ray, what is it? What is it? I'm like, at that point I couldn't think straight because I had just seen what appeared to be a very large animal with an arm and a leg, and it wasn't a bear at all. And Jeremy, Tim goes, should we tell him? And Jeremy, being Jeremy, goes, what, did he have a gun? Because that's his main, concern. He was joking, he likes to joke about stuff. And I said, no, man. And I told him exactly what it was that we saw, and even he was freaked out by it. And we had called someone from the BFRO, and they came out to investigate. And when they came there, they had a guy with them who was about the same height as Tim, and he went through the weeds, and it was every bit of about 5 foot. And where this thing was standing, there were imprints in the grass where it had been standing. And then at the overhang that we could see its eyes reflecting, when we measured to where the eyes were, that was 8 foot, right even. So it could have been another 6 inches taller or whatnot taller. We're not exactly sure. But they actually, when they went into the woods and they were looking around, they actually did find an actual track that was a 15-inch track. So, and that's how I got into it.
Ray, were they able to cast that track?
Well, the truth is I don't believe they did. I'm pretty sure they did photograph it, and I know it was a part of the official report, but I don't believe they casted it. I have now, since that time, since I had seen that, there was, for a span of a year, and I became diehard with it, and me and my 2 guys, we would go out every single week, minimum of 8 to 10 hours, a week, and we would go out no matter what, rain, shine, sleet, snow, it didn't matter. We were out there, and we did it for a year straight. And by doing that, we did come across some interesting things, and we did cast a couple tracks in this vicinity, and one of them was a 17-inch track. Dan Baker actually has the remnants of it, and I say that because unfortunately a year ago it got broken in half. So, but it's still in existence, and we have seen and casted a few tracks there, and there is also a lot of pictures I've taken of partial prints that unfortunately, some of the area we go into, there was no way to get water in them. A rookie mistake, I didn't take enough water to actually make enough to make a cast. But we've learned a lot over the last 2.5 years, and that's something we've remedied. But Dan, are you still there, buddy? Did you mention the last time we went out, we took with Joe out to location 1?
No, I didn't mention that yet. No.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, we went out to location 1, and we actually took a guest, but I'm not going to say the person's name on the radio because they do stuff too in the Bigfoot community, but I don't know if I don't have permission to say their name. But they went out.
What does the name rhyme with?
Ego. It's a she. So. But if you get a chance to talk to her, she would be more than willing to tell you what we saw. And it was actually just that day was interesting because I hadn't been out there. And the truth is I've had some health issues recently, and I'm just trying to get over it, and I'm probably facing surgery, and who knows for sure. But we did get out there, and I hadn't been there in a while, and it was really funny because I said that this person is like, must be good luck for me because when we went out there, we hadn't walked in this area, I would say more than 100 foot into location 1. And there was a fresh tree break that was every bit of about 9.5, 10 foot up. And obviously this wasn't there earlier this summer. And so it's not snow load. And and it wasn't, the best part about it is there was nothing around it at all that could have come off a tree and hit because this tree had to be 8 inches in diameter, almost like 6, maybe, I'll say 6 to 8. I'm not real sure because I couldn't get to the measurement. But it broke clean, and it was broke straight down, and it was bent over. And the cool part is it's in an area, it's not a real pathway that we go in. It's kind of like where we just happen to go in. And it was actually draped right across that area. So like the whole top of the tree that was alive was hanging over there. So it made a real pain to get around to get through it. So I thought that was really cool because where I was taking this person was into the back to show them where there had been tree breaks, or really good twists where it wasn't just someone able to jump up and hold onto a tree and slowly pull it over and it break. This was twisted breaks, and they look shredded. And so I was pointing some of those out after we got past that, and they were fascinated with that first new one. And we got off into the back, and there's 2 small creek beds that you actually go across. And normally it's a lot harder to get to because, any rain, it just fills up. And they're decent-sized creeks. They're, 6, 7 foot across, little ones, nothing major. But it makes it a pain for most people to get across it. But now it's all dry. So it was really simple to get across. So we just went across it and went up to the hill. And I actually went up to the top of the hill and was able to show actually 2 structures to her that I also had the pleasure of going out with Igor Burtsov, if you know who he is.
Sure.
He's fantastic, and and he was actually a really nice guy, and I took him there, and he loved this place too, and we talked the best we could. There was a bit of a language barrier. He's pretty good, but I didn't understand some things, and he didn't understand me. But anyway, we went there, and she saw what we were talking about, and she was actually impressed with that. And it was bizarre because I had pointed out there was a small half a dead tree that was in right next to this pyramid structure that we have pictures of, that Dan Baker has a picture of it. And there's a little dead tree there, about a half a dead tree, and I had just made a comment. I said, I was like, see, there's nothing that fell and did this. It's not whatever, this was actually placed there, and this is not something that happens in nature. Sometimes stuff happens, but this was not that. And I had specifically made a point of pointing out this little tree. Well, we started walking away from it, and the one guy in our group, I had him do some knocks. And so he did a series of 3 knocks, and we just waited, and we were talking very quietly. And all of a sudden, we actually got a knock response back. Now, the truth is there are people that go into this area because a part of it is a park, but it's not like, where families go picnicking or anything like that. It's just like a small park, like that area. And but this place is huge. So we were way off in the back, and we heard a knock. So I thought, well, you never know. It could be someone who watches, Bigfoot stuff on TV. But then the weird thing is right after that, very close to us, within maybe not even quite 100 yards, there was a actual whoop kind of sound. And we've actually heard that before, and the other sound we've heard in the same area is actually a wah whoop. It's like a wah whoop and goes really high pitched. So it's we've tried to catch that thing on audio a bunch of times, but the audio that we have every time we're inside, under the canopy, all it really picks up is the ambient noise, like the crickets and birds and everything else, and anything in the background is kind of drown it out. And I wanted to have someone who can filter that out. I don't know how to do it. But anyway, we were in the back there, and sure enough, as we were walking away, like we were just at an incline where you could barely see up where we were. Like the one guy that was with us, Tim, he actually said, did you? And like before he could finish his sentence, I looked over, and I watched that tree that I had mentioned, that little half a dead tree. It actually come falling straight over on the right side, and like actually bounced up and down hard on top of this dead tree that was there, laying on the ground. And I thought, how weird was that? But Tim had just said, he goes, there was something running away from it. And I said, well, what did it look like? And he said it was black. Now, he said it was real fast. It darted right off in the woods, and he had just caught a glimpse of it, but it was right by the tree. So, I mean, that's literally the newest thing we've had there. And, granted, I didn't see what it was, but it's definitely interesting, to say the least, because there are no bears in that area. So that's the best I can go for you on that.
Interesting. Dan, your wife's encounters, does she have any encounters other than that one time with you?
Yeah, she has. At our research area, 306, let me see, it was last fall, I believe it was. No, was that last fall, Ray, or last summer? Well, anyway.
That was last fall.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, well, anyway, last fall we were there, and we were doing a weekend down there, and we were on a 6-man ATV, and it was getting close to dark, and I wanted to do a run around the perimeter of the tree line in the wooded area. So, I got everybody on board this 6-man ATV, and we started doing a run around the perimeter of the woods there, and just as we rounded one corner, we came up on an access road that farmers use to go from one field to another through the corner of the woods. And just as we got to that, she actually and Jeremy Wall both saw a creature standing at the end of this access road next to some round bales of hay that were stacked up back there. And they were yelling for me to stop the ATV. Well, before I could even stop the ATV, Jeremy was off and running towards this thing. And Sue hurried up and jumped out, as quick as she could, and she started heading back towards this access road. But as luck would have it, by the time Jeremy rounded the corner to where the access road was, it was gone. But we got both of these guys off to the side and asked them separately what they saw. And Jeremy's story and Sue's story matched up exactly. They saw this creature standing right next to these round bales of hay, and there was actually one round bale stacked up on top of it. I think there was two others. It was like a triangle-shaped thing, and the head of this creature was actually above those round bales, and it was large, broad, and black. And so that was her second sighting. And so that was pretty exciting. That was at R306, and then this year we were at the very same spot, and we were walking around, and we walked on because Ray and I wanted to go measure these round bales and see just how tall they were, and they were about 7 feet tall, stacked on top of each other. So we got back, and when we got back, Sue said there seems to be something swaying from side to side deep inside the woods there. She says, "Can you see it?" And I looked and looked and looked, and I didn't really see anything at first. Well, finally I caught a glimpse of something that seemed to be moving back and forth a little bit, and it was a real dark figure. And then Ray came up, and he had my parabolic microphone, and Joe had a pair of binoculars, and somebody else had a pair of binoculars. But overall, 5 people saw this thing pretty well, deep into the woods. But Ray could actually hear this thing walking around through with the parabolic microphone. We could see it was going like from the left to the right, and Ray actually heard it walking away through the parabolic. That was pretty interesting. So that was right here in Carroll County, Ohio.
Billy, did you have any questions for Ray or Dan?
No, I guess how many research areas do y'all have? And you're in Ohio, correct, Dan?
Yes. Yeah.
How many research areas y'all
we have them all over
working?
the country, but we concentrate primarily on northeastern Ohio, and around from Beaver Creek State Park area up through Columbiana, Mahoning, Carroll, Stark, and I can't remember what county you're in, Ray. But anyway,
Medina.
Medina County. So that's where we do most of our research. But we do have groups. We have teams all over the place that are doing research. So we get reports all the time of things going on. We have a team up in New York that has just an immense amount of activity in the Adirondacks, and they have they're in a cabin up there in the Adirondacks, and they have just all kinds of activity up there. They have footprints up next to their cabin, and tree breaks and all kinds of things, and they're always hearing vocalizations and things like that, and wood knocks, and it's just an incredible amount of activity that they have up there. I'd like to say something about our Australian division down there, if I can.
Sure.
Our Australian division down there is headed up by a man named Nigel Francis. How many of you know him? You know Nigel?
I do.
I don't.
Okay. Well, anyway, Nigel heads that up down there, and just here last week they did a trek into the rainforest, about 80 miles deep into the rainforest, and they come across the exact same things down there that we do, as far as the tree breaks and the wood knocks and the howls and the screams. But they tell me that the Yowies down there are pretty aggressive. And so they went out there last weekend, and they really didn't find a whole lot, but there was some activity at their base camp at night, but they weren't able to get any audio or anything on it. But they have a lot going on down there, and it's really strange, when you compare the activity in Australia to what we have going on here, how similar everything is. But what I've learned about the Yowies down there is they have a tendency to actually scrape tree bark off for some reason, and it's all like around the base of, not the base of a tree, but all the way around the circumference of a tree, and it's really a strange thing to have happen. I don't know of any Sasquatch activity that does that, but as far as the tree breaks and the wood knocks and screams and howls, it's all basically the same.
The Yowies down in Australia have another annoying habit, and that is eating people. So if you read any of Tony Healy's books, they talk about some of the Aborigines had an oral tradition. So these stories are passed down orally from generation to generation, and they talk about how some of these Yowies you came across them, and that would probably be the last that anyone ever saw of you. So they gave them wide berth, and there are actually some stories of, and I couldn't do them justice by repeating them now, but stories of a war between the Aborigines and the Yowies. And, there was a famous story of how they had basically surrounded these Yowies, and they were trapped on this hill, and they set fire to the mountain and were able to finally, rout these Yowies. So, we had basically the same type of story here. I believe it was the Iroquois Confederacy that went to war with the Bigfoot, and they supposedly chased them all the way down to the Ohio River and then west to the Mississippi. They supposedly went to war with them, and there was there's some folklore legend, Indian legend that talks about bands of these Janoskwa, the Stonish giants, coming into Native American villages and actually, carrying off victims to consume. So it's basically, we have stories the same way here. Yeah, interesting.
All right, guys, we got another caller on the line from the 724 area code. You're on the air.
Hey, Billy, Bruce, this is Greg Kachua. How's everything going?
Greg, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. I was wondering if the Turkish coffee wore off yet, if you've been able to get a night's sleep.
So Greg is referring to Greg and Dave and I went out on an expedition, and we were out for 4 days, 3 nights, and Greg had brought some coffee, some very, very strong coffee, and let me just say that we didn't get much sleep.
I do have a question for your guest.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering if they've had any reports of dogmen sightings up in that area, and if they've investigated them, and if not, if they did get any reports, would they investigate them? And I'll hang up and listen to the answer.
You know what? We are starting to get reports of dogmen around here. In fact, I was talking to another investigator from Pennsylvania, Brian Seach. They are becoming, more and more commonplace. I don't want to say commonplace, but we're getting more and more reports of dogmen in the area. And you know what? I think, I don't know how Ray feels about it, but if we ever get a report of it, I would be interested in investigating those reports as well. I have a feeling that these dogmen may be just another species or subspecies of Sasquatch. So I'd be interested in checking them out.
Yeah, I actually would be interested in checking that out too. But I definitely, Dan knows I don't ever go armed, do I, Dan?
No.
No, but if we do dogmen, you can bet your butt I will. So because I know how any kind of canine predator. You never know. That most of them can be docile, but then you can get into some that can be just downright ornery. And I've read about quite a bit about that and listened, to Linda Godfrey and stuff. So I figure it wouldn't hurt to be armed if we do that one.
Linda Godfrey, she was a speaker at one of our Creature Weekend conferences and a very thorough researcher. Ray, I was just wondering, what do you think the dogman phenomenon is? Do you think it's actually canine, or do you think it's a misidentification?
See, honestly, that's a tough question because I haven't done a ton of research into it. I mean, I read about it, but I mean, it very well could be like Dan said. It could be just like some kind of like subspecies of, possibly a Sasquatch. I mean, like I've actually, like there's been things, I'm wondering if it's more of something that has like more of an elongated face, kind of like a baboon maybe. And that's what people are really saying. I really don't know because, it's just speculation on that. Like I said, I really don't know, but that would be a guess on mine. But then again, I mean, there have been reports of wolf men and things from Brazil to, Greece. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, I always believe that, trust me, after the whole Bigfoot, I wasn't really a believer in that, and now I am. So I guess it's one of those things. It's, you got to show it to me to prove it, and, well, they did that with Bigfoot, so he walked right out in front of me. So I guess I need that with a dog man.
Dan, what do you think the dog man is? What's your opinion?
Well, I'm thinking along the same lines as Ray. That it could possibly be another, like a subspecies of a dogman, with the possibility of an elongated face similar to a baboon. I don't know if you've seen the photo of the creature of the seven shoots or whatever it is they call it.
Sure. Yep.
It has that elongated face that appears to look like a baboon. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. More of an apish kind of look to it. But from what I hear, they're nasty creatures, and yeah, you want to have some kind of protection when you go out. I personally, when it comes to Sasquatch, I'm thinking that Bigfoot are some type of relic hominid that way back during I forget what area it was, but back in Africa when Homo ergaster was splitting apart, and then you had Homo heidelbergensis. I'm thinking there's a possibility, now just a possibility, that there was another branch of the evolutionary tree, and this creature followed a parallel branch that has never been discovered. And maybe that's what we're looking at today, but that's all speculation on my part. But That's why.
Speculation that I agree with, Dan. So that might be speculation, but I agree with you, Dan.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem, buddy.
Yep, I'm still here.
Did you have any questions for Ray or Dan?
No, I think they've done a great job. I think most of the people wanted to hear the encounter stories with Dan and his wife, and then of course Ray, and everybody wants to hear those. I did put up a link, Dan, to your website. So folks in the chat room was asking for that.
Okay.
So I sent that link up. That way folks can go over to your website and check that out. And
it's
also,
a brand new website. Ray is the one that's been working on that. He's doing a great job on it. And, it's still a work in progress, but, it's going along pretty good. And, check us out, on Facebook, too.
Very cool.
And I'd also like to add one more thing if we have time. Me and Dan have been talking here for a while, and one of the things that I think we're going to try to work on, Dan, is the whole fingerprint thing, right? You still
right.
want to? So me and Dan actually have been talking with it about a way to possibly come up with an idea to get fingerprints, and we came up with an interesting idea that we're going to try to do. I would guess this coming spring, Dan.
Yes.
This coming spring, and if all goes well, do you still have that? You said you had a connection that could actually do the fingerprinting also, right, Dan?
Yes.
So Dan has a connection with somebody who on a police force who would actually professionally pull the fingerprints if we can get them. And the idea we're going to be doing, with any luck, we'll actually produce some fingerprints, and we're going to try it out at location 306, where we seem to have quite a bit of the activity. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew to keep your eyes open for that. And hopefully we get some results.
Sure. Let me ask you guys something. If someone wanted to become involved, are you taking on any new members, or are you taking on any new organizations that want to be connected to A.P.E? Are you doing that?
Yes, we're always taking on new members. Excuse me. You got to be pretty serious about the research. I don't want to see a bunch of pictures of blob squatches with red circles all over them, and obviously I don't know if anyone else does, but you need to be pretty serious about the research. And like I said, we're always taking on new researchers, and we're expanding all over the place with new teams and things. So yeah, that's we're always interested in growing.
How can people get in touch with you guys? Can you give us your website or your Facebook page?
Yeah, you can contact Ray and I through Facebook. And there's also a contact us form on the website as well. So you can contact us either way.
Yeah, the website is www.apeohio.vpweb.com, and it does have a really nice contact form on there, if I do say so myself. So I figured you'd get a chuckle out of that. The other thing, too, is I told Dan one of the things I'd like to do is, we've been talking about, I want to try to kind of because there's a lot of weird infighting that seems to go on with a lot of groups, and they don't want to share information things. And I put an open invite out there for I'm willing to go to people here in Ohio to help out if that's wanted, or I'm even willing to take someone to location 1, depending on how things go, and they have to be serious researchers, obviously. But I'm willing to work with people, and that's what I want. I figure if we could all work together and get in a consensus in the community, we might be able to provide better information to academia that would accept the subject of Bigfoot, and that's what I'm hoping.
So, what can you clarify a little bit? People who are serious, what does that? Can you?
Well,
tell
I mean,
me,
how Well, I mean, not like someone.
Person?
Well, I want somebody who fits in with our values about going. I would want somebody who would, if we say, hey, we have a witness, would you be able to go check this out? Say they're the closest person. I wanted them to be able to go to it. When I mean serious, I mean serious about doing the research, not personality. I want people who would attend our lectures and attend, the conventions with us and help promote A.P.E and try to just benefit everything A.P.E involved and get us to the next level where, people know, hey, these are top-notch people, and we want everyone to come to see us and, making contact with new people if they can and being willing to do the actual legwork. So that's what I mean by that. You know, like me and Dan are dedicated, so I guess that's a better way I should have said would be dedicated to it.
So no fair weather researchers, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I don't want some guy who like will be like, oh yeah, sure, and then go out once a year. You know, I want someone who's going to go if it's raining, snowing, it doesn't matter. I want them to be able to go. So.
Well, Billy, I think that excludes.
I'm going without my umbrella.
Yeah, hey, that's fine. You know.
What's that, Bruce?
I said that excludes Fred Saluga.
Good old Fred.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, you met Fred at Beaver Creek.
Oh yeah.
He's a character.
Yeah, Fred's a good guy, but he's Fred's Fred.
Yeah. Well, do we have any callers, Billy?
No, that was it.
All right. Well, this has been a really awesome show. I'd like to thank both Ray Gardner and Dan Baker for coming on the show and talking about, you know, their research. And they're both in, what are you guys from, Northern Ohio?
Northeastern,
yes.
Right.
Northeastern
yep,
Ohio.
Northeastern.
You know? And, you know, again, if you have a chance to look up their website, highly recommend it. I think they did a good job with the website. And absolutely, if you're interested and serious about, you know, Bigfoot research, feel free to contact them. So, thanks again, guys, for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. I had a great.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dan and Ray. We appreciate it.
Sorry
you,
about the phone call earlier. Didn't work out, but I'm glad it worked out in the long run. It's nice meeting you, gentlemen, too. So.
Yep, it's good to meet you.
Well, yeah, trust me, Ray, that was very minor compared to some of the issues we've been having.
Okay, makes you feel better. Hey, I tell people all the time, man, I'm not a tech guy, so, you know. All right, well, thank you, guys. I appreciate everything.
All right, good night, guys.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
All righty, Bruce. I think we've tied up another one.
Another great show, Billy.
Yep. So hopefully, it seems like there's a couple folks that are saying they're having some issues, but I'm not sure if it's a Blog Talk issue or if it's just something on their end. But regardless, you know, it's one of them things.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone doesn't know, there is an interesting event coming up here in a couple of weeks, and I'm not sure about you, Bruce, but me and Janine's going to be there, and it's the 2015 Mothman Festival. It's going to be on September 19th and 20th, 2015, of course, where else but Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So if you guys want to check out how a town closes down its streets and has a big party, you might want to come check that out. It's pretty interesting. Got some interesting characters out there. You know, you might even get a rare opportunity to see Fred Saluga go through a portal or something interdimensionally and go into another dimension if you come out and visit. Yeah, you never know what you might see. But, anyway, yeah, if you guys can, you know, if anybody has that opportunity, obviously you want to reserve your hotels because they actually book those hotels pretty quick, as I've learned. So September 19th and 20th, 2015, you'll see me roaming the streets out there somewhere and checking things out. And do you know if you're going to make it yet, Bruce?
You know, Billy, they don't call me the International Man of Mystery for nothing. So I don't.
In other words, he'll be there.
I don't know. I don't know if he'll be there.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
But for those of you who are thinking of going, highly recommend it. It's always a great time. The folks there are really nice who put it on, and it's just a really fun event. You can not only go to the Mothman events down in the center of town there, but there's also a haunted hayride, which every year I know that our friends, the Frick brothers, help put that on, and it's really a fun time. And if you've got nothing going on, just go down there and there's also if you want to actually tour the TNT area where the Mothman incident happened, you can go down there and look through those empty silos. I wouldn't recommend you do it alone, but if you're going with a group, I think you'd be fine. I think they had that incident with that serial killer living in those silos, but I think that pretty much has resolved itself. I'm not sure if they apprehended him or not, but I think he was just basically killing people randomly. But don't let that keep you from having a good time.
Yeah, go ahead and walk in a few silos.
But
well.
Yeah, there's it's a good time.
Yep. All right. Well, we want to thank each and every one of you guys in the chat room. We had a pretty full chat room tonight.
We did.
Yes, we did. I appreciate all of our loyal listeners coming in there. I mean, we got a lot of loyal listeners, and we appreciate you guys. We had a lot of guests in there tonight too, and I think that's because Dan and Ray drew a crowd, so we had some guests there listening in as well. So appreciate that.
Well, Billy, either Dan and Ray drew a crowd, or we just had a bunch of people who got into the chat room and just didn't know how to get out of it.
They could have got stuck. It could have been a portal or something. Maybe got stuck in a portal or something. That might be what happened. So, all right. Well, we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. And until next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we hope you guys have a great week and a great weekend. And see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Sasquatch Watch Radio. We appreciate every one of our listeners. We hope you enjoyed our program. Don't forget to tune in again next week for another fun and informative program. Please visit our website at www.sasquatchwatchradio.com and leave us a comment about the show. We want to hear from you. Until next time, keep on looking for the big guy.